Hello, friends. Welcome to Echoes of Understanding with Steph and Pete, episode 2 Men, Women, and the Space Between. As you can see, I am alone. Peter is not here, sadly. So, what happened this week was we didn't have a chance to actually record our episode on Zoom because Peter has had a very busy week. So, what we do is we do a live talk on this app called Noom Vibe, and it's an audio app where we start live talks, and then there are people in the room listening at this live at the same time. And so what we normally do is we do that talk, and then we get on Zoom and we do a similar talk based on that one, just without the interaction we have with the people on the Noom Vibe app. But since we didn't have a chance to record separately, I am uploading that live talk on here so that you'll be able to have an episode and you'll get to hear us interact on there. So I don't have a video of us I don't have a video of us. But for those of you on YouTube, thank you so much for your understanding. Echoes of understanding. And I appreciate you listening. Thanks, guys.
Hello, Noom Vibe community. This is Stephanie Ann Webb. And this is the podcast Echoes of Understanding with Steph and Pete. And our topic today is men, women, and the space between. Last week, we had a message from our lovely friend Laura Strader, and she was talking about, or she mentioned in the back she sent me a chat message, and she was talking about Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti by Bill and Pam Farrel. I can't remember why that came up because Peter and I were talking about something, and anyway, Laura had messaged that, and I said, I read that book, and I thought that would be a wonderful thing to discuss. So, but Peter and I are going to discuss generally men, women, and the space between. So here is my co-host, Peter Carrington. Hello.
Hey, Stephanie Ann Webb, what's happening? Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. I'm glad I was thinking I better check the timer.
Okay.
I kept it at 60 minutes. Sometimes I forget about that.
Yeah, I know. I set mine, mine's on 10 minutes now, I think, for my live. So usually I have it on 5, but I put it on 10 for a little bit. I don't know, just kind of
switch it up.
Switch it up and let people do what they do. Can you hear me okay? I feel like I'm over-modulating. No? Okay.
No, I can hear you. Well, right. Good. Well.
Sound check. Sound check. 1, 2. Man, I got to tell you, I am very satisfied. My belly is quite full, actually.
With your feta pizza.
I did a feta pizza again. It's kind of my thing, a feta pizza. And yeah. I don't know if you can hear that. My stomach's growling, but you can probably hear it. At any rate, good evening. Welcome to Noom Vibe and Echoes of Understanding with Steph and Pete. I'm sure you read that already, but I'm just
I did.
It. Yeah.
Yeah. And I asked ChatGPT for a good title. I'm like, help me. And then it gave me like 5 to 10. And then I got like, oh, that's too many to think of because they were all really good.
Yeah.
You know how I get. So
buttons.
Yeah, too many. Wait, what?
You said so. I said buttons. So buttons. So buttons.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were talking.
Laura Strader's in the house.
Laura Strader. I think she was the first one that popped up. Actually.
Yeah.
She popped up before you popped up.
Did she?
Yeah.
She beat me to the
yay,
punch.
somebody's here. I don't like when I'm all alone in the room.
Yeah, now we have Maria, we have Janice Anderson. Good evening, Janice. Jeanette Umelin. Hey, a guy named Peter Carrington, whoever that is. Cher. Hey, Melissa Brent. What's happening? Lisa Childress. Thomas Gilberto, good evening, and the greater Laura Strader, Noom Vibe.
And truly, Julie
Pillar.
just joined. Oh my gosh,
Did
Julie. It's so late where you are. Thank you for joining.
For joining.
So,
what are we going to do now?
So we were going to talk about men
butt.
and women and how our brains are and how we communicate and think and approach life and all that fun stuff. Now, we are not experts. I'm not a research doctor, scientist, anything like that.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Well,
Just
you
kidding.
should put
I'm
doctor in your title then.
Maybe I should.
Julie just said, don't tell me what to do, because I told her, wait, did I tell you to go to bed? That's one thing.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Peter, but women don't like to be told what to do.
Well, yeah, no, I think I've got that part.
That's a human thing.
Yeah, I've got that down.
That's a human thing.
That's why I'm getting a boy dog.
Nice.
Is that bad? Are we off to a bad start? I don't know.
No.
I'm getting a boy dog. I'm just stating a fact. I'm getting a boy dog.
So, yeah. So, I ChatGPT'd the book. Because, so I read it. Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti, like 20-ish years ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember much, to be honest with you. And it is just one book out of many books talking about, there's men are from Mars, women are from Venus, which I never read. Did you ever read that one?
No, I know of it, of course. And it was a lot of John Gray, right? Was it John Gray that wrote that?
I think so.
Yeah, there was all kinds of hoopla around that. I remember him being on, talk show circuit, Oprah. I think I saw him on. But yeah, it was all the talk. Maybe the late 80s was that. I want to say it's late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around there. That's what I can remember. Yeah.
And did you find, when you started learning about the differences, did you find it helpful? Did you get confused about male, female?
So, no, I think what it did for me is it just kind of put some titles to what I had already known just through interaction. And it kind of made some sense with some things, but I don't know I don't remember it jumping out at me and saying, look, if you change this, she'll act like that. Or why is she responding like this when I do that? Yeah, I don't remember any epiphanies like that, but I'm sure there were some. I just don't remember any.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I found really confusing was, so we were told that women talk more. We use more words in a day than men. But at the time, in my 20s, teens, I was very quiet. I didn't talk much about my feelings or anything. Yeah. My dad talked a lot, though. He used more words than anybody I knew. So I remember being really confused by that. And I thought, well, I'm supposed to be talking more because they tell us that women talk more.
Okay.
And generally speaking.
Yeah. So I guess by now, if we had an actual word counter, I think you'd have me beat. But we'll see how it goes in the next 50 minutes or so. How's that?
Well, now, I know I do talk a whole lot.
Yeah.
I am like blah 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 all the time. Right, Julie?
I heard though. So I heard somewhere that like men speak to convey information, to exchange information, and women are more nuanced, as you say, and they kind of tell a narrative, maybe giving the same information, if not better, sometimes. But that's what I heard for the most part. Like men communicate with each other just to convey and to receive information. So.
Well, okay. So I don't know if it was a book or an actual person I knew.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, but I heard they said if when men get together to hang out, they're usually just hanging out watching sports. Football, and they'll sit there not talking for hours. They're just sitting there. Yeah. But if you have women that get together, They're not really, unless they're maybe watching movies. But even then, we're mostly talking and connecting, and we hang out. And so I thought that was interesting because I was like, well, how come men just sit there
Right.
and not talk to each other?
Because I think that's what we just kind of do. I don't know. I don't know. That's how we're built, I think. I mean, during a football game, there's a lot of yelling at the screen, TV screen, but like regular communication, I don't know. I don't know if we're built like that. I don't know if we're built like that.
Julie just messaged me. Women talk feelings, men talk fix it and practical.
Beautiful. Thanks, Jules.
My cousin had a few girlfriends that he would, bring to family gatherings. And there was one that we all really liked, and then they broke up. And I remember asking his brother, my other cousin, I said, what happened? Do you know why they broke up? Which is none of my business, but, I was young and I was nosy. So he goes, oh, I don't know. And I thought, how do you not know why your brother broke up with the girlfriend? Because if that was my sister, I would know everything.
Yeah.
So I found that fascinating.
You know what I'm doing right now?
Falling asleep.
No, purposely speaking less so you can speak more so I can prove the point.
No. Maybe I stopped talking. Then we have dead air.
That would be a disaster. A disaster. Yeah. I remember like there were four boys and then my dad, of course, 5 men in the house, 1 woman. And my mother would constantly talk. And, I remember her saying one time, like, if I don't talk, you guys don't know how much you would miss it. And we'd be like, yeah, whatever. Then she tried it a couple of times and was like, it's awfully quiet, eerily quiet. What's wrong with mom? That type of thing. So she was kind of the life of the party, so to speak, and kept us engaged in conversation. And good thing there was 4 of us, 4 boys, because all 4 of us together, I guess, kept the conversation going with her, the one mom, 4 against 1. But I kind of tend to know that. And I don't know, just like in thinking about the relationship dynamic, I like women are always asking, why don't you speak more? Why don't you open up to me? And like sometimes it's just like, I don't, because that's why I don't, because it's just, I don't know what to say. And it's like that. And our brains work like that. And we kind of get stuck. It's like, what do you want from me? And I think there's definitely a chasm, a difference between that. And so when women get with their girlfriends or, other family members that are females, that like that talk just goes on. And I think it's kind of entertaining, not, in a way, it's just interesting. And I'm like, well, that's pretty cool how they can continue to talk for an hour about just anything that comes to mind. And I find that quite fascinating. I really do. I really do, because I'm not really, I have a green badge, which I call it a blessing, and I'm grateful for that. But I tend to think, like, for me at least, I feel more comfortable still on this side of the mic as opposed to on the left side of the screen. I love the community. I love doing both. I think I have some life experience that's valuable. So I come on as often as I do because of that, but mostly to listen and learn and maybe hear what someone else has to say or just to encourage. But as far as just a one-on-one dialogue, I think I can get better at that. But I think part of me not doing that is still staying true to myself. Like when I do speak, it's honest, it's open, but it might not be as in depth as my female counterpart. In this case, you, Stephanie Ann Webb.
Well, I don't know, because I feel like you're pretty, like, having conversations with you does feel really in depth. Or is it maybe less, like, what do you think?
Well, I'll say this. Like, I value, like, I'm often one to say, like, I'm not a big social person. I'm kind of awkward, actually, socially sometimes. But what I do enjoy, I think, is I value authentic. There's that word, authentic, real communication. And it doesn't have to be that deep. It just has to be real, right? So, even a more in-depth, so-called in-depth, superficial conversation, just not my thing. It's just not. So, if I'm speaking to you, as long as I'm speaking to you, it's because there's some realness to it. There's some authenticity to it. So, with that, I can rock out with. But I think like just going to social event or even a work-related networking event, I don't do very well in those spaces.
Well, and that's the thing also, when it comes down to the generalizations,
Yeah.
it's also our personalities. So some of the stuff that I was told women do, I was like, "Oh, I'm not like that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand small talk. I don't want it." My dad, my dad still thinks, and he's actually said this. What do you do when you get together with your friends? Do you talk about the weather and your periods and babies?
Wow. Okay, Dad.
Yeah. I was like, really? No,
Mm-hmm.
Dad, we talk about everything. And I mean,
Yeah.
politics. Yes, we talk politics a
Yeah.
lot. I find it fascinating, and with, well, certain friends. But I shared this with you before. I had a group of female friends that I'd gotten to know recently over the past few years, and we're all in our
Yeah.
40s.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, I realized this is not my group. It's boring because all they were talking about was boyfriends. And I thought, oh my God,
Okay.
I'd rather be in my car listening to that podcast than sitting here with these women talking about boyfriends. We're
Yeah.
not teenagers anymore. And so I thought, is this what kind of that men think women do? Because it's not all of us. And that's where it's not like where the generalization about men and women, or my dad thinks women just gossip. I was like, really? That's what you think? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that's definitely stereotypical, but when it happens, it just kind of fulfills the stereotype. And I think also what some guys may consider as gossip may not be gossip. It just may be women communicating. And just because it doesn't resonate with us as real talk, right? Whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
It may be categorized as gossip. But I think I know, like for me at least, gossip is definitely a more negative connotation because it's just like you were talking about people in a way that's not that attractive and not always genuine, and generalizing, and there's always that I think negative slant to gossip. In fact, that's probably close to the definition of it. But I think when guys don't know how to place it, we can very much feel that way. Or we're in a room full of women and they're talking and they're just flowing about anything, and they're able to build on that and stay true to the conversation. And just as a guy, just as we're starting to plug in and listen to like what they're saying is starting to make sense, someone switches gears and they're off talking about something else. And there's a lot of talk and there's a lot of build up and there's a lot of words that are meaningful, but it's like, get to the point, because I was just at your last point and I'm trying to hop in here, not to look rude, but I just can't keep up. And I think for me, at least, that's part of the problem for me. I can't always
Yeah.
keep up with how women speak and how, I think they're very witty. Yeah, I don't always get it, but I'm probably the wrong guy to ask, as far as women's communication is concerned. I'm not that good at it. So okay, I'll give you a quick example. The relationship dynamic. Growing up, I mean, even in my early 20s, I remember every relationship I was in, like, I would not know how to read the cues of a woman who liked me. Like, I kind of had an idea and we'd spend time, but I wouldn't know the right time to lean in and place that kiss or something. It was just awkward for me. So I ended up being the one that got kissed first because the tension built so long, and I'm just being, my father's son, the chivalrous gentleman that I am, and being respectful of her space. And yeah, that's just kind of how I operate it, and probably still do to this day.
But
You can ask Samantha, my body pillow; she'll tell you.
could that be also like neurodivergency? So this is the tricky, oh my gosh, there's so many parts to this, which is why it's fascinating. I also never knew, and I come across as very flirty. I was accused of that since I was a kid. And
Okay.
I think that's why I stopped talking to boys, because my friends would go, "You were flirting with him." And I was 8, right? And we didn't like, or, if you were flirting with a boy, they would tease you that you liked him. And I was like, "Oh no, Ben can't know that I like him."
Yeah.
So I think that's when I kind of really stopped talking to boys, because I didn't want to be accused of flirting. But over time, I realized I'm just like this with everybody. I
Okay.
just giggle and I'm just like, hee hee hee. And
Right.
I come across as flirty, but I'm just like that with personality wise. So I never knew. And then I would have friends tell me that guy likes you, and I would believe it. And then he didn't like me. So I get
Oh.
really confused. So I think that whole thing, I'm also awkward. I also never know. I literally started asking, like just telling guys if I liked him, because I was like, I just need to know if you
Yeah.
like me back, you know? Because
Cool.
I also find that hard. So could that be the neurodivergency?
That could certainly be a part of it. That could be a part of it. I don't know, but what I do know is this. We're on Noom Vibe, and my name is Peter, and that's Stephanie, and this is Echoes of Understanding with Steph and Pete. And we really appreciate you guys stopping by to hang out with us for a little bit on your Saturday evening, first day of March, the spring of spring. I'm excited about that. And we're talking tonight about the difference between us and them, or them and us, that being women and men, masculine and feminine, waffles and spaghettis. Right? Did I say spaghettis? I just said spaghetti. Sorry, take 2. And
That's
action.
okay.
Waffles and spaghetti, plural.
This is
Right?
live. We
And
just say
yeah,
things.
and the greater Laura Strader, actually made that suggestion to us, and we said, yeah, let's hop on it. This was about a week ago, and that's what we did. Now, one thing that sticks out from waffles and spaghetti is, values pizza. Like how it's saying how like men value independence, women value connection, which I thought was really interesting. And I think it was talking about kind of maybe when the guy gets home from work, he just needs a minute to decompress and get his thoughts together. And that's how he processes the day, perhaps, where a woman, as it was suggested in part of the book, that part of the way she may process the day is by talking about it. What are your thoughts on that?
I used to come home and just sit down and watch TV. I wouldn't talk to
Yeah.
people. But it really depends. But that's me being an introvert.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
had roommates, I would just be like, "Don't talk to me, leave me alone."
Mm-hmm.
And even coming home from high school, I remember my dad would be at the door, "What'd you learn in school today?" And
Yeah.
it was just like, and I actually thought I had a mood disorder.
Yeah.
Then later on, I found out I was an introvert. But my dad would get really mad at me. He's like, "What's wrong with Stephanie? Why is she so grumpy?" And my mom would say to him, "Just leave her alone, give her half an hour just
Mm-hmm.
to in her room, decompress, and then she'll be
Right.
fine." Because I had to decompress and recharge after being at school all day. So
Yeah.
I never really knew what that meant, but it really depends. Because, yeah, I can come home and talk about my day, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for you, is it more like you don't? Is that you just need to decompress?
For me, yeah, it's definitely that for me. When I get home, I just want to kind of chill. Just when I was married, and then like now, even I live alone, and I still find that I'm pretty quiet and just kind of take some time to just chill, although
You don't
I'm
talk to
alone. And then I
yourself?
start to I don't even talk to myself. I just kind of just kind of chill, maybe think, quiet contemplation, and then I get up and get going to the next thing, whatever the next thing is. But I find that that's kind of the way I do. Even if I worked from home all day, and with the exception of a couple of walks, after the day shuts down, I just kind of need that time to maybe process or just decompress, do something different. So.
And do you find the phone frustrating? Like if you get a lot of messages?
No.
Oh, okay. I can.
Email does that for me. If it's an email, well, I have my email notifications off half the time because I only check my email once a day because I'm email adverse. But when it comes to like texting and stuff, I with the exception of a few people in my life, like I'm probably not going to see your text until it's time for me to switch my setting and come back to life, so to speak. But I go silent with my notifications quite often. In fact, a couple times a day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For me, it depends on the person. Some people I'm like, oh, they're texting me again. Other people I'm like, yay, they're texting me again.
I'm never like yay, but I'm like, cool, they're texting me. But.
Cool. We got some messages here. I'm just gonna.
Cool.
Laura had said she noticed at her parties that at her house, pretty much any party I went to, the women end up by themselves and men do the same. It took me years to realize when my husband seems to draw a blank when I ask him something about some specifics. If he says, I don't know, it really means he doesn't know, not that he avoids or doesn't want to rehash the past. Or did into painful past experiences. By the way, Stephanie, I love your giggle and laugh. Aw, thanks. Women need time to decompress after coming back from work, or maybe just me. Yeah, that's me too, Laura. Also, if I get asked, and I think this is just a human thing, but if I get asked, what'd you learn in school today? I always said, I don't know.
Right.
I have to be asked specifically. Like I remember there was a situation with my uncle 2 years ago. And the whole time my dad was telling us what was happening with it was his twin brother. I had opinions. I was like, well, yeah, this and this and this. But one time my dad said, what do you think about this whole thing? I said, I don't know. And he got mad at me. I'm like, you're asking me a very general question. I told you the specifics at the time with the specifics.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I think that's just my brain.
Could be. That sounds a lot like neurodivergence to me. That's kind of how I would respond to. Yeah, like how was your day? I don't know. It was okay. Like, do you want like when I say they, it reminds me of when I was married or in a relationship. It's just like they want to know what your day is like and they want to hear about it. And I'm like, I don't remember my day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remembered, of course, but yeah, if you ask specific questions about said meeting or whatever else, or how did that go, I can tell you. But in general, yeah, I don't hold it like that. So
there's a lot that happens in a day.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing about the waffles and spaghetti, so it's like they compartmentalize their thoughts and can focus on one thing at a time, just like the square sections of a waffle. But women are like spaghetti. Their thoughts and emotions are often interconnected like strands of spaghetti on a plate. They tend to multitask, seeing relationships, emotions, and daily activities as part of an interconnected whole. So how do you see that? Does that resonate with you?
Can you read that again, please? I was ADHD
the whole thing
on you. Yeah. Do you mind?
Men are like waffles. They compartmentalize their thoughts and focus on one thing at a time. They have to tackle problems in a structured way, moving from one box to another without much overlap.
I would say yes, with the caveat that when neurodivergence is in full swing, maybe not so much.
See, that's the thing on top
maybe not so much.
Where I think with the men and women books and discussions about it, there's not a whole lot of the other aspects. So when I used to hear that, I'm like, well, maybe I'm like a man because I'm like that sometimes. If I'm hyper-focused on something and somebody comes and talks to me, I get really angry. I'm like, leave me alone. I can't think about it. And I think if I had ever had kids, I'd be so irritated all the time because they're always coming in and talking to you.
Okay.
So, but then I was told I'm like a woman. I'm like spaghetti, and you can multitask. And I struggled with multitasking I worked at a call center, and they used to go on and on about multitasking. would break down crying because I'm like, I make too many mistakes multitasking. So I thought something was wrong with me because I wasn't that type of woman that they were saying I was. But I think that's maybe neurodivergency.
Yeah. But I don't know when you're probably right with that. But I think of like, I don't know when I was married, I'll just give you an example. Like if my wife were to ask me, how was your day? I'd say good. And that was it. Right. But if I asked her how her day was and she said good, and that's all she said, I would be thinking, no, maybe it was bad because she's not explaining her day. Like that's, and I still think I think like that. If I were to, hey, Steph, how was your day? And
good.
Yeah, you're just a friend. Like if you're even, I would say, okay, well, what's up? But with the guy, hey, how was your day, bro? Good, cool. That's it. Done. End of story. No explanation needed. But I think there's an expectancy of a woman to talk more about it. Where is that born out of? Maybe because in my experience they have. I think part of it may be cultural. I don't know. But I suspect that might be part of it.
Maybe. Yeah, it might be.
Yeah.
Like we're told, like maybe the self-fulfilling prophecy where you're told that you're a certain way. An example of that was when I was growing up, my dad used to tell me that women are emotional and men are rational. So I thought, okay, well, I cry a lot. I'm emotional. I'm just crazy and women are crazy. So that's just what and I can't be rational. I can't be a thinker and take philosophy because that's men. I literally actually believe that. So because I was told that and I would see the movies where and this is just bad, toxic understandings and immaturity. But when the women start, like in the movies, right? They're like, I don't want anything for Valentine's Day. So the guy doesn't get them anything for Valentine's Day. And then they're mad that he didn't get them anything for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are we supposed to be like this? Because that's really irritating. I actually thought we were supposed to be like that. But then you go, well, the men hate this and they're confused.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand. My brain didn't understand what we were supposed to do. So I used to act like a really dumb girl a lot of the time because I thought guys like when I'm told by the movies, guys like when you're dumb. But in real life, I realized guys don't like that. I was confused a lot. But so that's also a thing where you're kind of, they're telling you you're a certain way, but that was really unhealthy advice or understandings, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that makes sense. If you say you don't want anything for Valentine's Day and you don't get anything, then I hear it, and I think it's not a big deal. I've probably made that mistake, not on Valentine's Day, but certainly with other things. What comes to mind a little bit for me too is when a woman's telling me about her day, even a colleague, like I like to fix ish. I like to fix stuff. That's what I do. That's how I'm wired. So if you're telling me about an issue, like, or you're telling me about your day and it had some kinks in it, or there were some issues, or there's an ongoing issue that you're telling me about, I don't get or hear that you just want to be heard. You just want to get it out, right? You just want to decompress and dissipate by telling or talking about it. I am thinking actively of how I can fix your problem. That's what I'm keying in on. I'm compartmentalizing the things that I'm multitasking. Actually, while you're talking to me, I'm listening to you, but I'm listening careful for those cues, for solutions, and so I can be Mr. Fix It. And it's not because it's that label, it's because that's how my mind works. You tell me something and I'm going to give you a solution. And I found out a beautiful way, but the hard way. My daughter finally said to me, Dad, I just want to tell you about, can you just listen to me? I'm like, okay, sweetheart, I'll listen. She was a teenager at the time. And then, I told my therapist later on, she's like, yeah, women just want to be heard. Sometimes you don't have to fix it. And that's fucking foreign to me. Like, I can't, how can you talk about a problem maybe and just want to talk about it? Like, I don't get that. I get it. Like, logically, I get it. I understand it now. But still, I have to resist I have to resist the notion that I'm supposed to fix everything. And I've been running into that a lot, as you might imagine, as a disability advocate with a single mom, perhaps with kiddos, and she's just venting, right? I can't fix everything that she's talking about, even if it's something that lands in my purview. I'm always thinking about a program that might fit for them. And sometimes I realize now that they just need to be heard and they need to be listened to. And that's certainly part of what I do. And I think I do it pretty well now, but yeah, maybe not so much in earlier years.
And that's very helpful that you can recognize it. But do you ever just start talking about something and just because you want to be heard?
Yeah, with my therapist.
Oh,
That's about it. Yeah, just with my therapist, I think.
yeah.
I don't often do that now.
I remember that was did you ever watch Home Improvement in the 90s?
I know the show. I don't think I've ever dug into it now.
That was one of my favorite shows growing up. And I remember that was a problem that Tim had. He would go to Wilson, his next door neighbor, who always had to explain things to him. And he would say, your wife just needs this, because Tim would always want to try and fix things. Because his show, like he was into home improvement, and his show was Tool Time, where he fixed things. And that was a recurring theme on that show.
Yeah.
I felt like, yeah. But
very cool.
I feel like that's also a human thing, because there will be times when somebody will, usually a woman will come to me, start talking, and I'll try to, I'm thinking of ways like, what can I say to fix this? And I've also have to realize, I've also had times where people are like, Steph, I'm not really looking for an answer. I'm just, or actually I have a friend named Seth, and he did that once. He goes, I just need you to listen. And I was like, oh, I do that too.
Yeah.
I try to fix it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, it's, it's strange for me to hear a guy doing that. And I guess guys do that. I do it with my therapist, but that's about it. But that's just the way it's kind of set up for me. I don't know. Everybody's different. At any rate, I'm Peter. That's Stephanie. This is Echoes of Understanding with us, Steph and Pete. And you're on Noom Vibe. And if you're new to Noom Vibe, welcome to this amazing community. You've landed in the right place. And you may not learn a lot about waffles, spaghettis, or women or men tonight, but you're in the right place. And the base vibration here in Noom Vibe is love. And if you need some love tonight, we're here for you. We're giving you a big virtual hug. And stick around if you are new. Because, like I said before, you're in the right place. So we appreciate you stopping by and spending some of your Saturday evening to hang out with Steph and I on Echoes of Understanding. Should I do that again? I felt that. Okay,
that was great.
Okay, cool.
I always forget that part.
That's why I'm here.
That's why you're here, filling in that part for me.
That's it.
Oh, so how do guys get their emotional connection? Like, because we seek it out. We're constantly trying to, like you were saying.
I don't know. I'm going to get a dog soon.
Oh.
That's probably sounds pretty bad, but it's the truth. Like, that's just kind of where I'm at right now. And I don't know. That's emotional connection. I think we connect differently than I'm definitely emotionally connected, I think, with people. And so when I hear you saying that, right away, my mind is prejudging, like, what do you mean? I'm a dude. What the hell are you talking about? Like, that's what my mind kind of hears. I know it's you, Stephanie, and I love you, Stephanie, and you're a very dear friend. But in my mind, it's like, what do you mean? How do I get emotionally connected? Like, that in and of itself is a pre-programmed problem because of the way I've just heard it, or it's a learned behavior. And to be honest, I think it's a little bit of both. Because it feels right, and not to be so concerned about something like, how do I emotionally connect? And my way of saying that would be, I speak from the heart, and I meet people where they're at. And I think hearing it come from you being, we're emotionally connecting, or how do you emotionally connect? I don't think of it as that. And you may, like, if I'm talking to you, say you're a person I'm dealing with in business, you might feel that connection, right? But we label it very differently. And so I'm not sure. And I think part of what we do on this particular space on Noom Vibe, and I think that's what we kind of hash out. I think it's kind of the purpose of it, because the bottom line is, like, I could read a book, you can read a book, we can have pre-scripted questions and subjects and go over them before we come on the air, and we don't do that. And I think so part of it is talking through it. That's what we're doing right now. And so as I'm thinking as you're asking, and that's what's coming out. So I don't know if that exactly answers it, but that's kind of what it is for me. That's what it is for me.
Well, I think it also comes down to the words we use and how we're understanding them.
Yeah.
Which is always so interesting in communication.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this, guys, is one of those awkward moments when neither of us really know what to say, because this is unscripted. And as much as we like to say, hey, we are in the flow of things, it doesn't always flow. And so, by the way, you can always hit us on what they call the back channel. You can always send a DM. Stephanie has already read a couple from Laura, and I think who else jumped in? Julie, I think, sent a.
I got a few from Cher.
Yeah, share. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So what you can do is just tap the circle on the left. That's Stephanie, or part of her. I don't know what it is. The girl with the blonde hair to the left
Miss
of me.
Piggy.
Hit her picture, Miss Piggy, and I don't like saying it, but yeah, and just ask the question that way if you'd like. And you can hit mine if you have a question specifically for me. I cannot promise I'm going to read it on air, because talk about multitasking, that's not one of my things. Reading out loud is not one of my things. And I'll tell you why. In the 3rd, 4th grade, dyslexia, ADHD before it was that, just kind of, it's a thing for me to read out loud, right? Public speaking was a real big thing for me. Now it's not, but reading out loud still is. So if you're asking me a question, I promise you I'll get to it. It probably, most definitely will not be live. So I hope you understand that, and know that it's not me ignoring you.
Yeah, it's probably best to send me the messages.
Yeah.
Although I do have a hard time sometimes. I can read and listen, but sometimes I can't. Like I said, sometimes multitasking for me is tricky, but
Yeah.
I can also do it, so it's fine.
Well, it would end up like this. Read that question, but the only part he got right was my name.
I got your name right?
In other words, if say Sherry wrote a question or made a statement, like, she'd be like, "That's not what I said. I don't know what the hell he's reading," but he's it's human. Of the world, yeah.
Yeah.
Big
sometimes I get ahead of trying to, how they say, well, listen to listen, not to respond. But sometimes my brain is going, oh, okay, what am I going to say next after, in case there's a break?
Yeah.
Which is why on air is interesting, because if we were just having a conversation without it being live or on air, whatever,
right,
it wouldn't matter if there's silence.
No, it wouldn't matter, and there probably wouldn't be as much, because when there is silence, you're thinking about, okay, though, there's another person on this talk with me live, and there's other people listening. What are they going to think if we don't sound like we know what we're talking about? What are they going to think when I say spaghettis instead of spaghetti, or just don't get what the other person's saying? There's that awkward silence between us. That's what happens. This is not see, it's not a game show. It kind of is, but it's not it's not a scripted show. So it is live, and it's not a scripted version of life. It's very unscripted, and it just kind of goes the way it goes.
It's literally coming from our brains and our mouths.
Can you
So
imagine
whatever
that?
comes out, it's what you get.
Whatever comes out of our inner algorithm, it is what it is, right? So.
I got a message from JK. I think you guys are great. It's authentic, which is perfect. Aw,
Thanks,
thank you.
JK. Love you, sis.
That's what's so fun.
Yeah.
One thing, there was, when we're talking about women are like spaghetti with our thoughts and emotions often interconnected, that also confused me because my dad's not been tested really, but I'm pretty sure he's got ADHD.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
he can go from one topic and I will follow it. I can follow and see how he gets there. It's fascinating. And then he'll end up in a completely different one, which usually, no matter what it starts out, it usually ends up in politics. And I'm just like, ugh, because I'm so sick of it, politics.
Yeah.
But he goes all over. And I used to think, well, isn't that like spaghetti? But I think that's the ADHD. And I remember you and I have discussed this once on your on the Vibe, the show that you do in the evening.
Yeah.
And you said sometimes people don't know how you got from here to here. And I said, I wonder if I could figure it out. If I was standing beside you, I wonder if I could explain it to somebody else because maybe I would actually understand.
It's almost a language unto itself, right? It's kind of a way we interpret the world, and it's not always like the neurotypical person interprets it. And in that respect, I think it could be a very lonely life. Now, let's go back to childhood for a minute, shall we? Now, when I'm thinking about my childhood, one of 4 boys, definitely the apple that fell furthest from the tree. As I'm thinking about it, a lot of my communication was just that. And there was a chasm between how they communicated with each other and how each one of them communicated with me, or
your
how they
family
communicated.
members?
Yes, absolutely. And that's really no different in my life today. It's just it's how I perceive the world and how my perception of life and what I see going on, what I feel. I feel my way through it more than I analyze my way through it or logically break down things. So it's just interesting.
Did that actually get into a lot of arguments when you were growing up?
Usually not, because long before a strong emotion would come out of, like if we're having a conversation, long before it built up like that, I was able to diffuse it because I felt the energy building before the words came out of someone's mouth. And I knew where they were going, so I was able to steer away from that. Or if it went an argument, I was able to accelerate it, And that's the ability of, like, in my life, I, like, everybody literally, and I mean this, is on a 30 to 45 second delay, and I'm in real time. That's the way I live my life.
That's fascinating.
I've never said that before. Yeah, I've never said that before, but it's true. It's true. And yeah, I guess if there's a way to test it, I would welcome it because I know it's absolutely true. It's not fantasy.
And that's quite a gift.
That's the superpower of it, right? All of us that have neurodivergence there, we have a superpower, whatever that is. So there's a so-called deficiency, for lack of a better term, in our brains, right? But there's also a part of it, the savant part of it, that overcompensates, and it's pretty brilliant. I mean, I'm not taking ownership of it any more than I'm giving myself ownership for having the deficient part of my brain, because I'd rather not have it. I'd rather not have numbers jump columns when I'm doing math. I'd rather be able to read a page without jumping from sentence 1 to 4 and forgetting to, maybe read that comma or period, or not being able to express the words that are in that story, and not be able to tell the story like it's been written, or interpret that with emotion. Like, I didn't plan that, but nor did I plan the ability to see you before you're coming, like, and just feel your energy before you closed the door and really entered the room. It's just, how it goes. Yeah.
One thing that I did ask ChatGPT when I was going through, like, help me explain the book and all these different aspects, it said women can walk into a room and sense tension right away. She'll say something's wrong, and the man is like, huh? Everything seems fine to me. But
Maybe I'm a chick.
but see, that's what I used to think. Maybe I was a guy, because I think that's the maybe the sensitivity, the perception. What's the right word for that? For being neurodivergent, there's a sensitivity to sensing something else.
Yeah, there is. And oftentimes, I think when someone's speaking, and I think that speaks to the wanting authentic conversation, whether it's surface level or really deep. If I know someone's saying something and their energy is something completely different, I don't last very long with that person in a conversation, because I'm aching for them to get to the point. And the point to me is this: what's really going on with you? And now, not everything is for everybody, but if there's a conversation that continues with a person, and it's supposed to be an exchange, if it's always surface level and not authentic, I really don't do well in those spaces. Now, people do that all of the time. When you meet someone, it's like, hey, how you doing? Fine. Like, they really don't want to know how you're doing. They don't want to know. But my literal mind works like, no, really, how are you doing? And who has time for all that? So those are all those social cues that I easily miss sometimes, but I manage now because I know what to look for and I know what the deal is. Like, and I just accept that not everything is for everybody. And just because I'm at a certain place in the way I communicate doesn't mean that everybody has to be where I'm at. In fact, most people aren't. And I think sometimes ignorance is bliss, and that's just the way of life. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that I don't have the ability to have that filter in my brain, and my brain probably will never work that way. I knew I thought it worked that way is when I was in my pill addiction. Like, everything was just like, whatever, it's cool. I don't have to feel that. And in a lot of ways, that life was a lot easier then. But it was it just wasn't all that great. So
That's fascinating. I've always been irritated with, hi, how are you? Good, how are you? And it's just a greeting that we do here in North America. My dad, my dad and his twin brother actually had anger, and it was a blowout with their sister, my aunt, because they said, why, I hate this. Why does she ask, hi, how are you? Wow, they don't really care how you are. And the more I can observe that, it's, I go, oh yeah, okay, well, because I get really irritated with them. But I thought, he's just irritated that it's a thing that we have to do.
Yeah.
And what he's really wanting is a genuine, how are you? Which I remember I answered that on one of the questions we got here on Noom Vibe. I think it was, what do you wish people asked you more or something? I can't remember. Anyway, and I said that actual, how are you doing? Like, really? And when somebody stops and asks you that, you know that they want to know that they care.
Yeah. I think I just got a notification from you. Is that accurate?
Me?
Yeah.
Not me.
Oh, maybe. Okay. It's weird.
Is that another one? Oh, am I being
cloned?
Maybe. I did get a message from Laura. She said, Bill and Pam Farrel talk about the 4 different relationship and personality styles. The beaver, the lion, the golden retriever, and the otter.
Yeah, I remembered that. I'm confused still.
It's kind of like the olden days. I can't remember who invented it. I remember learning this in English class. But there's those personality types like the choleric, the phlegmatic, sanguine, and melancholic. Yeah, all of those. I can't remember which ones they were. I always had a hard time with those. But there's so many different personality thingies.
Yeah, there are.
But
I really don't know if we solved anything tonight. Because
I think
what
it's
we
just
did,
about
yeah, what we
not
did is
solving anything.
it,
Is that
no,
your male brain
I
going,
get
I need to solve something?
it is, it
Oh,
really is. I'm looking at the time, I'm saying to myself, like, what's the deal here? But I think we were able to kind of talk through something. I got a deeper understanding of maybe how women think. Yeah. Um, and maybe I need to read that book again because I still don't get it that way. I can tell you this
Laura.
though. I
Mhm.
can tell you this though. Um, as you probably know, I am invited to speak to a women's group that's in recovery right here in the Richmond area, and the meetings are completely different than the guys' meetings, and very much more enjoyable to me, at least at times, because there is more dialogue, and then where there's more dialogue, especially in recovery, there's better understanding, and I can help people navigate. So I'm not guessing what the next thing is. Usually, I'm not figuring out how to ask the particular question to get this particular guy to come out of his skin and really tell me what's going on in his head or his heart, um, or if I'm connecting all the time, if I'm speaking to a group. Whereas women, there's the nods, there's the eye contact, the engagement. Certainly when they're speaking and they're asking questions, it's just honest and raw. And it's not to say that I just think men are more guarded, at least in recovery they are. And so that's a major difference that I can tell.
Well, there's also that
That
question,
occurs.
like a lot men are given that they're told, don't be emotional, don't be this. Um,
Yeah.
so you kind of question like what's nature versus nurture, which
Hmm.
we had mentioned before. It's very fascinating, but
It is. I don't think we should be that emotional. I really don't. I think we should be true and authentic. But
mhm.
if true and authentic means telling something that really feels uncomfortable for us, or looking for maybe different ways to express feelings, right? That are just not how we communicate. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's just the way we are, right? It's what makes us who we are as people and as males. I think there's a masculine and feminine energy in this universe, and certainly in people, and they're perfect after their own kind. And I think if you try to force one on the other when the other is designed in a certain way, I don't know if the results are that great. I really don't. I really, because we're not good at it, right? So if a woman says, I want to hear more about your feelings, I want you to open up to me. No, you really don't, because what will happen a lot of times, and I think what happens a lot of times is, and I see it, I hear guys, like, especially in recovery, like they want to, they've opened up for the first time in their lives because they had to get real because they want to survive and they want to get through this addiction. And they've opened up in these men's groups and talked about some things, and they go home and tell their wives, and next thing you know, they're getting separated. And it's not about cheating,
Mm.
it's about maybe how they really feel or think about a certain aspect of the relationship, or you name it. But like, not everything is for everybody, and just because you're feeling um this newfound openness, like, too much can be too much. And we talk about taking a fearless, searching and fearless moral inventory. That means we dig deep and we admit to one person and our higher power exactly the exact nature of our wrongs, and we make amends at some point, further down in the steps or up in the steps. And it says, with the exception of by doing so would cause harm or undue stress, for lack of a better term, to someone else. Like, you don't need to know everything about what was going on, especially if it's going to hurt you now and has no value other than for me to get it off my chest. And I can't think of a perfect example right now, but there are some things that just need to stay with maybe you, your higher power, and your coach / sponsor in recovery, at least.
I think it really comes down to know thyself. Like,
Yeah.
because yeah, we don't need to be emotional. Actually, we want to get to a place where we can regulate our emotions. And that means
Yeah.
healing. But that
Yeah.
means getting to know yourself. So when
Right.
when my dad would tell me, like when I would cry and I'd be emotional, I wasn't being a woman. I was being somebody who didn't understand. I didn't know I could regulate my emotions.
Yeah.
And my dad's emotions would just come out in anger.
Mm.
So when he gets angry, and I've asked him, like when his brother died, I said, well, you have feelings about that. Like they're, and he can't get to that place where he can tell me,
Right.
yeah, I feel conflicted because we didn't really get along, but also
Mm-hmm.
I miss him, and he can't get to that place.
Okay.
And it just comes out in anger and blaming his brother.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to be emotional about it, but he doesn't know what else to do except be angry. Does that make sense?
I think there's a certain stoicism that men should have. I really feel that and believe it. With that, there's a certain, I think, I don't want to say mystique, but I think there's definitely a stoicism that men should have, and we should hold ourselves in certain ways. And like, no, you don't need to know. I'm talking about in a relationship. You don't need to know everything about my day. You don't need to know exactly what I'm feeling every time I'm feeling something, because that's just not the way it is, and it is what it is. And I just think we're not wired like that. And for someone to push for that, I think sometimes it's just inauthentic. And I've seen lines get crossed and erased. And I've seen women lose respect, quite frankly, and devalue a man and their masculinity that they're in a relationship with because the guy got too emotional or was... There's a word for it out there in the world. I won't use it, but it's not a curse word. It's just a word that they...
Is it a word that a certain president has said before?
No, it's kind of a wimp, but it's like simping or something like that. Like guys are always like, yeah. So how that fits in this conversation, I don't know, but I said it. It's recorded, and
it's stoicism for anybody, though, not just men.
It is what it is. Yeah, I do. But when I think of stoicism, I think that's a more masculine trait. That's more on the masculine side of the spectrum. I think it's not only for men, but I think
the
it's
masculine
a predominantly
energy?
masculine energy or trait. Yeah. At any rate, we're coming to a quick close here. I'm Peter, that's Stephanie Ann Webb, and this was is Echoes of Understanding, and we really appreciate you guys stopping by tonight to join us and hang out for a little bit. And we may not know you, but we do love you in and through this universe, and really appreciate you guys joining us tonight.
Yeah. And just one last thing I'd like to say is it's just about understanding each other and communicating in healthy ways, and starting to understand if we can communicate in healthy ways, we'll be able to have healthier relationships with each other. Anyways, thanks you guys for listening. Sending love to you all. Bye.